The sky is already burning. German bombers cross the Soviet border before sunrise. Along the runways below, aircraft sit wing to wing, perfectly aligned, perfectly exposed. No dispersal, no camouflage, no order to fire. Within minutes, communications fracture. Airfields vanish in smoke. Entire divisions wait for instructions that never come. This was not a surprise. For weeks, the warnings had been unmistakable. Spies confirmed it. Generals feared it. Foreign governments reported it. The reports reached Moscow. They were read and dismissed, because accepting them meant admitting something far more dangerous. By the time the truth becomes undeniable, it is already too late. How does an empire of millions prepare for war and still refuse to believe it? 2 years earlier, the world had watched in disbelief. In August 1939, Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union signed a non-aggression pact. Hitler and Stalin, ideological enemies, agreed not to attack one another. Secret clauses divided Eastern Europe into spheres of influence. Poland would be partitioned, the Baltic states assigned. Borders redrawn before the war had fully begun. To the outside world, it looked cynical. To Stalin, it was insurance. The Red Army had been shaken by internal purges. Between 1937 and 1938, thousands of officers had been arrested, imprisoned, or executed. Entire layers of leadership were removed. The army still functioned, but confidence had been fractured. Stalin believed war with Germany was inevitable. The question was timing. The pact bought time. Germany turned west. Poland fell. France collapsed. Britain endured alone. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union expanded its buffer zone. Eastern Poland, the Baltic states, parts of Romania. On the surface, the strategy appeared to work. Industry accelerated east of the Urals. Tank production increased. Aircraft factories multiplied. The Soviet Union was arming, but not yet ready. And readiness is not simply numbers. It is coordination, trust, command clarity. Those were still fragile. By late 1940, the pattern shifted. German forces began relocating eastward under the cover of secrecy. Railway lines near the frontier grew congested. Supply depots expanded. Airfields closer to the border were upgraded. Soviet intelligence collected fragments of a larger picture. Agents inside Germany reported massive troop movements. British intelligence shared intercepts suggesting a coming invasion. Even Japanese sources hinted at a looming rupture. The volume of warnings increased. Some named dates. Some described specific army groups. The pattern became unmistakable. But interpretation depends on belief. Stalin believed Hitler would not risk a two-front war while Britain remained unconquered. He believed Germany was pressuring the Soviet Union diplomatically, not preparing for invasion. He believed Britain had an interest in provoking conflict between Berlin and Moscow. Inside the Soviet leadership, few dared to challenge that belief directly. The purges of the late 1930s had reshaped behavior. Senior officers had learned caution. Contradicting the supreme leader carried risk. Intelligence officers learned to frame reports carefully. Some warnings were softened. Some were labeled possible British disinformation. Some were buried under procedural delay. The system did not lack information. It lacked freedom to act on it. By spring 1941, the scale of the German buildup was immense. 3 million troops, over 3,000 tanks, thousands of aircraft.
heavy artillery positioned along a front stretching over a mile long. Soviet border guards could see the construction of bridges and pontoon equipment. Field commanders requested authorization to heighten readiness. They were told not to provoke Germany. Aircraft remained parked in tight formations to avoid signaling hostility. Defensive lines were incomplete. A full mobilization order was withheld. The logic was simple. If Germany attacked, the Soviet Union would respond with overwhelming force. But premature mobilization might give Hitler a pretext. The calculation relied on one assumption: that the invasion was not imminent. On June 14th, another intelligence report arrived. On June 17th, another. One source predicted June 22nd precisely. Each report sharpened the pattern. Each report met resistance. Accepting the warnings would mean admitting that the pact had failed. And if the pact had failed, then 2 years of strategy had been misjudged. The cost of acknowledging that was political and psychological. It was easier to doubt the messenger than the premise. On the night of June 21st, German assault units finalized positions. Artillery crews calibrated coordinates. Engineers prepared river crossings. Across the Soviet frontier, tension was visible. Some local commanders, sensing danger, quietly placed troops on alert without explicit authorization. But system-wide mobilization never came. At 3:15 a.m. on June 22nd, artillery fire shattered the frontier. Operation Barbarossa had begun. It was the largest land invasion in history. Army Group North drove toward Leningrad. Army Group Center advanced toward Moscow. Army Group South pushed into Ukraine. Within hours, hundreds of Soviet aircraft were destroyed on the ground. Command networks collapsed. Headquarters lost communication with entire formations. Confusion spread faster than orders. Initial reports to Moscow were fragmented. Stalin first suspected a localized provocation, then rogue commanders, then limiting conflict. The scale forced recognition. The pact was broken. The invasion was total. Within weeks, massive encirclements formed at Bialystok and Minsk. Hundreds of thousands of Soviet soldiers were captured. Entire armies dissolved under pressure. Supply depots were seized before relocation could occur. The speed stunned even German planners. The invasion succeeded early, not because the Soviet Union was unarmed. It succeeded because readiness had been delayed at the highest level. An empire prepared for war, but under the wrong timetable. In the days that followed, Stalin withdrew from public view. For a brief moment, uncertainty spread through the Soviet leadership. Was the system paralyzed? Would command fragment? Then he re-emerged. The response shifted from hesitation to total mobilization. Factories were dismantled and transported east beyond the Ural Mountains. Industrial capacity was rebuilt under extreme conditions. Civilian populations were evacuated. The war transformed into a struggle for survival. The Eastern Front became the deadliest theater of the Second World War. The siege of Leningrad lasted nearly 900 days. The Battle of Moscow halted the German advance in winter. Stalingrad would later become a turning point. Millions perished across cities, forests, and frozen plains. When the war ended in 1945, the Red Army stood in Berlin. Eastern Europe fell under Soviet influence. The Cold War began. The decisions of June 21, 1941 reverberated to the remainder of the 20th century. The planes were lined up. The warnings were delivered. The reports were read. The empire was not unaware. It was unconvinced. And in history, hesitation can be as decisive as aggression. June 22, 1941 was not only the day Germany invaded the Soviet Union, it was the day belief collapsed. And when belief collapsed, the world reordered itself around the consequences.